It's not often that Seiko releases a watch that completely fails to sell, but that's exactly what has happened to this one. Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Seiko is one of the world's biggest watch companies and one of the world's most prolific watch companies, releasing seemingly hundreds of new models and special editions every year. They're also one of the world's most beloved watch companies with an ardent fan base both in Japan and overseas who adore everything they produce. Or mostly everything anyway. And Seiko had a great year in 2022. Amongst many others, they released the 5KX GMT, which has completely changed the landscape for affordable automatic forehanders. And then the large K speed timer, which has been a fantastic sales success for them. But in late 2022, they released an entire new model range that has fallen on its face harder than anything they've launched over the last 5 years. These are so unpopular that retailers are having to sell them below cost just to get them to move. What are they and why have they failed so badly? Let's flip the camera and find out. Indeed, let's get into the box then. This is a Seiko 5, which is normally the mainstay of the company. It's their bread and butter. Normally the stuff that moves in really big volumes as well. Think 5KX, think Dress KX and all of their field watch offerings. But this one, by comparison, is a bit of a ghost. It was released here in Australia no later than October last year, but to little fanfare and seemingly little appreciation. I could only find 2 other YouTube videos about this entire range, one from my friend Alistair at the Watch Channel and one from Watch Depot, an Aussie retailer who I assume are struggling to move stock. I paid less than 200 Aussie for mine during a sale, which I'm reliably informed is below cost. Now that is unheard of for a Seiko, which is surprising because it has many of the elements that made the MoonSwatch such a massive hit in 2022. It's cheaper than the MoonSwatch and it's lightweight thanks to its case material. But if Seiko hoped this watch would have the same impact as the Omega X MoonSwatch, it seems they rather misjudged the market. And there it is, the Seiko 5 SRPG 79K. From here it looks broadly similar to about 287 other Seiko 5s. It's got the 4 o'clock crown, it's got a 4R automatic movement, which gives it that day-date complication there at the 3 o'clock. It's got a dive style bezel, and that handset and indices layout means it could be nothing other than a Seiko. It really is such a distinctive look. It also comes supplied on one of their really nice, very flexible silicone rubber bands, which means it should be a very comfortable on-wrist experience. And because it's a Seiko, it's available in a number of different colours. I believe there are 4 of these in total. The 79 in black, the 75 in blue, the 71 in green, and the 81 in all grey. So plenty of options for you then. But what about that case? It doesn't look like stainless steel, does it? Perhaps it is stainless steel, but with some kind of PVD coating. Perhaps it's Cerakote. Now that would be nice. That's something we've only seen before on the aftermarket. But no, it is neither of those things. That, my friends, is made of lightweight resin. Hence the comparisons with the bioceramic MoonSwatch. Now, I am a fan of lightweight watches. Personally, I've spent decent money over the last 12 months on a couple of pieces in titanium. But this isn't titanium, it's resin, which lacks weight but also lacks any real feeling of solidity. And let's flip this one over to the back. Stainless steel screw-on caseback, I guess because of the resin. That looks exactly like the caseback you'd find on, for example, a $25 Casio MRW 200. And indeed, there it is next to a $25 Casio MRW 200. They are pretty much identical. Well, I guess some compromises have to be made because of the switch to a resin case, and the caseback style is one of them then. Perhaps the shift to a bi-directional friction bezel is another compromise because of the resin case. This one both looks and feels exactly like the bezel on a $25 Casio MRW 200. And indeed, there it is, next to an MRW 200. The bezels are pretty much identical in looks and feel. And then there's the sizing. It looks like a 5KX, which in turn looks like an SKX, so you'd be expecting a diameter of around 42 with 22mm lug width, right? Wrong. it is much, much smaller than that. This one has a diameter of only 39 millimeters, thickness of 12.7, lug to lug of 46, but it's only got 18mm lug width. Now again, I'm a fan of slightly smaller than average watches. I've got plenty of 38, 38 and a halves, etc. in my personal collection, and I do enjoy this size of watch. But I've only got one other watch that I wear regularly with 18mm lug width, and that is the much smaller, vintage styled Seagull 1963. I think when you go that small between the lugs, you're making a bit of a statement. I think for a lot of people watching this video, rightly or wrongly, 18mm is thought of as just too small for them. But the biggest polarizer, I think, will come from this watch's USP, the weight or lack thereof. This one weighs in at 56 grams. Now, the lightweight is a result of this resin construction throughout, but it does lead to a watch that, whilst being light, it's also just a little bit flimsy and a little bit tinny feeling. Now, as mentioned, this watch is powered by a 4R36, so 24 dual hacking and hand winding day-date automatic by Seiko, but because of that screw-on caseback, you don't get to see it. There isn't a mineral crystal display caseback like there is on the rest of the 5KX range, which undoubtedly dents this one's showroom appeal, if you will. There is, as you'd expect from Seiko though, some pretty decent lume. It is Lumi Bright, but it's the blue style of Lumi Bright. Perhaps not initially all that impressive, but it does last a decent duration, so that's one thing you don't have to worry about today. It has 100 meters of water resistance, just like the rest of the Seiko 5 range, from a push-pull crown, and it has ALIEXPRESS crystal, just like the rest of the Seiko 5 range, although in this case, it's actually mildly domed, which is also quite pleasant. And it wears very nicely if you're okay with the size and the lack of weight. Personally, I'm totally comfortable wearing a watch like this. I see benefits both from the lack of weight and the lack of bulk with one of these, but I still think they got this one wrong in two key areas. The first is the size. Why didn't they release this one in an identical form factor to the 5KX, 42mm diameter with 22mm lug width? Maybe that would have meant an extra 10 grams, so 66 grams or thereabouts, which is still really light. I think that would have offered a viable alternative for people who already owned a 5KX or an SSK, but wanted something a bit lighter and therefore a bit more comfortable for gardening or weekend playtime or sports or whatever, but with the same overall look on wrist. And I think they got the price wrong as well. These are priced the same as the 5KX, so it's smaller, lighter, flimsier, and not nearly as solid feeling as its big brother, but for exactly the same money. If people tried both of these watches on in a high street jeweler, I'm just not sure how many of them would choose the new one. And for the third and final time, let me bring back the Casio MRW200, a lightweight resin watch with a day-date complication and a bidirectional friction bezel with 100 meters of water resistance, that costs less than 20% of the price of a Seiko. Now, I appreciate it's quartz and not automatic, but again, if you want something lightweight that you don't have to care too much for, and if you have a look at these two watches side by side, I'm just not sure how many people would buy the Seiko considering the price difference. And I'm not sure how available these are globally. Perhaps Australia was a test before they rolled them out to other Western markets. If that was the case, they didn't really try very hard, Seiko. The watch doesn't appear on Seiko Australia's own website. Every other 5 is there, but not this one. So if Seiko wanted to make their own MoonSwatch, if they wanted to cash in on the enormous hype around a lightweight watch made of an interesting case material, I don't think they did a very good job of it here. Casio have been happily making lightweight resin case watches for decades, but they price them appropriately. And the MoonSwatch had the appeal of the word Omega printed on the dial. This Seiko 5 has neither the attractive price tag of the Casio or the brand cachet of Omega. It's not a bad watch at all, don't get me wrong, I don't hate it, and I would much rather wear this than a MoonSwatch if I'm being honest, but that, I believe, is why this one has been a sales failure. So there you have it, the Seiko that apparently nobody wants to buy. Flimsy and light, but priced like a more solid offering in stainless steel in an awkward size for Western markets. Perhaps trying to satisfy a demand that just wasn't there in the first place. I don't hate it personally though. If you are looking for a lightweight, reliable, automatic, everyday watch, perhaps you will also be able to pick one of these up for a bargain price yourself. If you, like many others, have no interest in this one, why not check out their two big hits of 2022, the SSK GMT and the Big Boy Speed Timer. Thank you for watching this one. I will see you again in a future video, I hope.